higher in level than the 10 great demonic arts. However, being complimented by the demon lord so suddenly is making him shy. He exclaims that he tried many things but found them to be the best for getting stronger, and the results are rather good. The demon lord says he didn't think far enough ahead and says the demonic art may be lacking in power and impact, but as a foundation, it's the best technique of their cult. He asks Hajin if he has given a bit more thought and wouldn't have had to modify it with any other martial arts. He exclaims the third lord has made a flower bed in a place where a tree should have grown, and he wonders what the lord is saying since he said earlier that he was excellent. After a while, the demon lord says his martial arts are fine since he has achieved good results and asks him to leave. Hajin wonders. First, he pours him a drink, and now he wants him to go and is unable to understand why he even called him there. If he wanted to blabber on about his martial arts, then he should have sent him a letter. Anyhow, he gets up and takes his leave, and the demon lord asks him to take a bottle with him. It's a reward for his good work, and he thinks he never thought that the third lord would mix in Buddhist arts to create a new art. He wonders if the third will surprise him again next time, and if this happens, then this winter will be an interesting one. After a while, when he is leaving in a carriage, he thinks he can't breathe when he is with the demon lord. The more he thinks about it, the funnier this seems. He is the demon lord, but he gives him a half-drank bottle of alcohol instead of a new one, and Gonpal grabs the bottle and says this is the 6th heavenly spirit brew. He tells him that this is something only the most honorable martial artists in the cult can drink, and asks him if the demon lord gave this to him by himself. Hajin shockingly asks him what is so great about this, and he reveals that the 6th heavenly spirit brew is the cult's highest grade liquor and something enjoyed by the past and current demon lords. It is a special drink that is bestowed upon those who have accomplished great deeds, and just getting to drink this is great glory and honor. Moreover, the demon lord himself made this, and it is a drink that even money can't buy. Hajin is surprised to see that he is a real fan of the demon lord. He asks him to drink together when they return, but he states that his duty is done once he escorts him to his residence. He needs to return to the court of elders and says it was an honor to work with him. Hajin asks him if he is fine with not drinking this, and he asks him to give him some time to think about it. After some time, he is finally back to his home, and it's nice to see this place again after such a long time. Suddenly, he is surprised to see the jackal beside him and wonders when it appears there. He thinks he will take care of it from now on. It had been a while since he saw Anqua too, but as soon as he entered the home, he felt an ominous aura that spread everywhere. He thinks someone must be there before him, and judging by the scent, it hasn't been long since they left. He also finds the way they left, and he wonders who they dare to hide in his residence. In the meantime, Anqua opens the door and is happy to see him there. She bowed before him and said the divine teachings are unquestionable, and all the demons prostrate before him, and she greeted the third young lord. He asks her to get up and says she doesn't need to do this, and she hears something bad happen to him in the solitary bamboo grove. Hajin thinks he didn't consider her enough, but she must have been waiting for him, and he asks her why she looks thinner than before. But she is just glad to see that he is okay, and he praises her work since the residence is very clean, even though he has been gone for 8 months. She tells him that she drops by every day to clean, so that he can return any day and feel comfortable. Hajin thinks Anqua is fine then. They must have just been watching her quietly, and she states that she has yet to heat the water because she just received the news about his return. She asks him if he wants to eat something first, but he tells her he wants to shower first. He wants to clean himself from the dirt from the solitary bamboo grove. After some time, he takes a bath and feels all that tension has been relieved. He thinks about the presence he sensed when he came back. He wonders if it was the person who was glaring at him at the meeting, and the person who caused his Kai blockage, the 4th young master, Hong Yumun. Suddenly, he gets angry at him and says he is dead once he gets him. He is going to be busy once again, and he needs first to get an understanding of how the heavenly demon divine cult functions. There's nothing he knows at the moment other than the fact that the leader is the demon lord. With so little information, he doesn't have any control. He can't predict what the demon lord would do, so he's out of the question. He needs to find out who the people who will be of help to him are. He will have to bring them to his side and gain enough influence to be able to go in and out of the cult as he wishes. With that, he will be able to leave someday and gain freedom, and now at least the silver lining is that he is the noble demon lord's 3rd disciple. No one might know what he is planning, but at least on the outside, he is of high status. He plans to climb up the social ladder higher in this life and have some fun. On the other side, a guard comes to the 4th young master and asks him to quit smoking for his health. He replies that he has been smoking quite a bit lately, but he will quit it when it is time to do so. He then asks him why he got the ones in the 3rd young master's residence to return, and thinks the 4th young master has good insight, but he can't understand his actions this time. He just keeps smoking instead of finishing the job he started, and he replies that he didn't know how the 3rd lord would react, so he had them return. The guardian asks him if he already predicted how he would react and had planned accordingly, and he replies that he thought he knew, but he was wrong. The guard is shocked to hear that the young master just admitted to being wrong, and he states that he saw the 3rd lord at the meeting today. It was his first time seeing him after the Kai blockage incident, and he felt much different than before. He's a lot better too, and he doesn't know what happened in the solitary bamboo grove, but he seems to have recovered his martial arts too. However, the reason he ceased the plan isn't that he regained his martial arts, but he felt that he looked like the 3rd lord he knew, but it felt like he was looking at a different person, like he was a whole other person. He felt his eyes were looking at him as if he knew everything that he had done. He says he is not doing this just because he recovered his martial arts and got a bit stronger, but he needs to reorganize his thoughts about himself. The guardian thinks he is not speaking the truth right now, and is confused by the change in the 3rd young master. He then asks him what the subordinates are doing after being ordered to back off, and he tells him that they are all complaining about the cancelled plans. The fourth young master asks him to comfort them with some money, and they are as obsessed with money as the third young master is, so they will be found as long as they get money. He thinks trying to attack the third young master is not a good idea right now, and he needs to go with another plan. On the other hand, Hajin waits for Donpul for a long time at the dinner and asks him why he is so late, but he is shocked to see so much food on the table. He tells him that Anqua prepared all this and asks him to sit down and start eating. Anqua asks him if it is really okay for her to sit down there with him and if she can eat later of her own. But he shouts at both of them, asks them to stop saying weird things in front of good food, and asks them to start eating hurriedly. After dinner, they all drink the alcohol given by the demon lord and drink a lot of alcohol. After 3 bottles, they are out of alcohol now, and he feels Donpul is a bit drunk and asks him to stop drinking. But he exclaims that he is not drunk at all, and he asks Anqua to bring more drinks for them. He then asks him permission to ask him a few questions before the drinks come, and he permits him to ask whatever he wants. Hajin says he wants to meet someone who knows all about networks and connections within the organization. He replies that a few people are pretty knowledgeable about the organization of things. Still, with human relationships, he heard the military office's general strategist is good with networking, but it will be hard to meet him. He suggests that he should meet the Internal Enlightenment Facility Master, and at the same time, the fourth young master orders the Guardian to send a message to the Internal Enlightenment Facility Master, So Yonsum. He has invited her to dinner tomorrow for a conversation, while he says it's dangerous to contact the Internal Enlightenment Master so rashly. Considering her personality, she will try to avoid interfering in the conflict between disciples and suggests he buy her resentment instead if he rushes into asking for her cooperation. He warns him, saying if he makes an enemy out of the Internal Enlightenment Facility Master, it would be of great detriment to him. The fourth young master knows about these circumstances, but wants to take risks. Now that the lynx has changed into a viper, so they have to change their weapon. The next morning, Anqua is cleaning the floor and thinks her young master drank so much last night, but now he seems fully fine and is training very hard. She is watching him while preparing and thinks he is just amazing, and as expected, not just anyone can be a disciple of the Demon Lord. Last night, Donpul told him that the general strategist would be the expert in that, and he is the head of the military, the most powerful group in the cult. However, it is difficult for anyone other than the Demon Lord to meet with him, especially these days. He heard that he is even busier, so it will be very difficult to meet him. He then brags by saying the Court of Elders is also very good. After all, they are the ones who protect the Demon Lord and the cult. They are the best organization in the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult, and Hajin asked him if anyone else was familiar with the details of the interpersonal relationships there. He then tells him about So Yonsum, that the Internal Enlightenment Facility Master will definitely be well versed in that. She has great power as she takes care of finances and will probably have good information on the relationships between people. However, he doesn't think they would tell him anything easily, and leaking information containing personal views is taboo. After that, Donpul asked him why he was asking him about this. Meanwhile, Anqua brings drinks for them, and they change the topic. Now he thinks about So Yonsum's internal enlightenment, but as Donpul said, dealing with her won't be easy. Someone who is the head of a facility that deals with finances is bound to have a lot of authority, and things might go wrong if he approaches her rashly. But he is worried about Fourth, who is blatantly targeting him with his subordinates even within the cult, and he is mistaken when he thinks he will return to a safe life once he is back from the solitary bamboo grove. Whether he is in the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult or outside it, there will be people who are after his neck, and he needs people who will have his back and be on his side. He has learned from his previous life what happens when he fights alone without any friends. He is training very hard and is breaking the stones, while Anqua is tired of cleaning the floor and wonders when she will finish it. After a while, Hajin gets tired, and it may be because there are a lot of things on his mind, and he is not supposed to leave any marks like these behind. In the meantime, Donpul enters there and asks him if he is training. He offers him the sword he mentioned, which is similar in length to the one he used to use. He opens the sword, and there is a huge amount of energy in the air. Hajin likes the sword and thanks Donpul for bringing something good for him. After that, he says he is going somewhere to make his future, and the jackal is also with him. He asks Donpul if he would like to come along if he is not busy. On the other side, at the high-class Spring Flower Pavilion, the fourth young master welcomes So Yonsum to his house for dinner. He requests her to come and tells her that he has asked for the most valuable dishes, but he doesn't know if they're to her taste. Later, they start the conversation, and she tells him that the Spring Flower Pavilion is under his management, and she knows best how good the food there is. The fourth lord laughs and says he didn't know he invited the owner of this place there and played host instead. The servants serve them the food, and she asks him the reason he invited her there, and he exclaims that there's no particular reason. He just wanted to buy her a meal since she always worked so hard for the cult. He observes her quietly and thinks she is a woman who's endured decades in this battlefield called the Divine Cult and climbed up the ladder to the position of Internal Enlightenment Facility Master. She has strong self-esteem and knows her values well, and he thinks he needs to act carefully as with the general strategist, it's not easy scoring a meeting with her. After some time, all the servants leave the room, and Yonsum asks him to tell the reason why he called her there. He comes to the topic and says he needs her help, but she gets up thanking him for the gift and says she will see her around. The fourth lord asks her if his request makes her uncomfortable, but she says she doesn't take sides when it comes to candidates. She doesn't know about the other organizations, but she cannot endorse such actions, and her facility manages the internal affairs of the entire cult, and if they don't keep a neutral stance, the cult will be established. The fourth master thinks even if she is the Internal Enlightenment Facility Master, it's just one of many organizations of the cult, and he expected her to know this. He takes his drink on the table and says she seems to be mistaken. He is only asking her to lend a hand and is not asking her to side with him. She replies that there is not much difference between these two statements, and he exclaims that he knows how important the internal enlightenment facility is. She then asks him to remember that he will not endorse any candidate, and he states that such a statement is not written in the cult's laws though. She says her statements are expressions of loyalty to the cult, and he suggests she change her mind on the matter, but she takes her leave thanking him for the meal. He calls her from behind and says he heard she needs the green turtle 4-leaved clover, and says it's a very rare herb and it can't be found in even Yunnan, where most of the cult's herbs come from. He heard it's an herb that one can hardly find even near the eastern seas, and he will give it to her if she needs it. She turns back and asks him how he knows about that, and the fourth young master asks her if this is so important to her. She inquires him about the answer, but he demands something in return for the answer and says he doesn't make deals that make him lose out. She asks him if he is threatening him, and the fourth master asks how he can threaten her, the internal enlightenment facility master. It's just that he happens to be in a difficult situation, so he hopes that she understands. One needs to offer something, and the other wants to have a smooth negotiation, and he believes the green turtle 4-leaf clover is a good example of that in this case. She gets ready to hear him out at least one time and asks him to say what he wants. He exclaims that he wants something that could be considered a favor between friends and wants to give a secret order to a servant. He asks her if she knows a servant named Manhwa, and she says she is a servant who works in the third young lord's residence and requests her to have a report on what the third young lord has been doing for 3 months. She asks him if he is planning to do something to him, and he asks her not to ask questions that cannot be answered. She states that he asked her for a difficult favor first and asked if it was a difficult request. She asks him what they will do if she gets caught reporting on his daily activities, and he says all she has to do is not get caught. She just needs to tell Manhwa to go on with her daily life as usual and send a simple letter after the day's work. Even if a problem were to occur, then the solution is simple. He states that the truth is as empty as tobacco smoke, and if they were to get rid of the tobacco pipe, then no one would know who the smoker was. When Yeonsum refuses to do this for him, he asks if he has asked for something very big from him. She tells him that she doesn't even know what kind of person Manhwa is, and she can't have her spy on someone for him. He then asked her to change it to someone else, someone she could trust. She is about to say something, but he interrupts her and says he knows she can do anything as long as she decides to. He asks her for the last time if she can do this, but she stays silent, and he takes her silence as consent. Suddenly, they are shocked to see Hajin already present there and listening to their conversation. He asks the fourth young master how long he will drink with these cheap cups, and says he has cheap alcohol, but his cups are clean. They are shocked to see him there and wonder what he is doing there, and he asks him if he is going to drink from those old dirty cups, or if he will come to drink with them. The fourth young master asks him why he has come there, and he replies that he struggled quite a bit looking for her, and he was wondering where she might be. She bows before him and pays her respect to him, and Hajin says she doesn't need to be formal. The fourth master comes forward and asks him what he is doing there, and asks his guards to take him outside since he is entertaining a precious guest. He replies that he has come there to look for the facility master and asks him to calm down, but he says it is insulting to interrupt them so suddenly. He ignores them and asks Yeonism to join him for a second round of drinks, but she apologizes to him and says she has already accepted the fourth young lord's invitation. He then asks her to join him for a second round after this meeting, and she wonders what he is planning to do. He asks her if she needs the green turtle 4-leaf clover. He explains that there are usually 2 reasons why someone would need the green turtle 4-leaf clover. One is when it is necessary to rapidly reduce the concentration of yin kai due to excessive depletion of yang kai, and the other is when one is inflicted with 9 yin meridian failures. However, both of those situations can be resolved with herbs other than the green turtle 4-leaf clover. He exclaims that there is no way someone like the fourth young master wouldn't know that, so it must mean he is in a situation where the green turtle 4-leaf clover cannot be substituted. He asks her if someone he knows was inflicted with kai blockage from trying to learn yin cultivation, and she shockingly asks him how he knows about this. He sits on the chair and says he doesn't know what kind of state the patient is in, but unless they are on the brink of death, they don't need the green turtle 4-leaf clover. It might actually be more dangerous to use that, and it might mess with the yang kai instead of just repressing the yin kai. He starts eating and says he knows she is anxious because she is worried about the patient, but there is no need to bend over backward to try and get the herb. She is shocked to see him and wonders why he is so kind, and if this man in front of him is really the young lord she knows. The fourth young master calls him and asks if he is listening to their conversation, and he replies that he was just standing in front of the door and heard something about the green turtle 4-leaf clover. He starts shouting at him and asks if he thinks this behavior is befitting of the third young lord of the divine cult. Hajin counterquestions him and asks if trying to kill his siblings behind the scenes in order to obtain sovereignty is befitting of his behavior. The fourth master asks what he is talking about, and he asks him if he is asking this question because he doesn't know. He calls him a fool who can't even control his subordinates and says he can understand this much, but he doesn't need to use his cheap tricks on the youngest. She is just a barely 10-year-old child, and she says the 7th young lady looked so frail at the meeting. Yeonsum is also shocked to learn that the one who made her like that was the 4th young lord, but he starts shouting and says he will not tolerate any more slander, even if it's him, the 3rd brother. Hajin says he endured a near-death incident, so his brother should be able to tolerate some harsh remarks. Hajin says he has no proof, so there is no point in rambling on and getting up, asking Yeonsum what she will do now. He says the deal is pointless now and asks her if she will stay there. She asks him if there is any way to improve the condition of someone with kai blockage, and he asks her if she doesn't know he was inflicted with kai blockage himself and recovered from it despite some fool's attempt at killing him by interfering with the medicine. The fourth lord shouts at her and asks if she is going to keep listening to him, and she thinks if it's the same deal, then there's no reason for her to do it with a hateful person. She thanks him for his invitation, says she will pay for her share, and leaves him saying goodbye. Hajin calls him, says he is going with his guest, and thinks his face is a sight to behold. He tells her he only has some cheap wine, and she says it's fine as long as the cup is clean. After that, the fourth young master called his guard and asked him how long the third lord was listening. He replies that he came in so suddenly, and they couldn't stop him, and he says they have no choice now that the plan went wrong. They will have to do it themselves. He wanted to avoid getting himself directly involved, but he would make him pay for this humiliation and pain. At the same time, Hajin takes her to his residence, says there's no need to think of it as some great favor, and just tells him the treatment method, excluding the explanation of martial arts. He says it won't be difficult though, and it will probably take about 3 days just to understand and attempt the treatment. There won't be any significant changes at first. He can't be certain since he doesn't know the patient's condition. However, with patience and determination, about half a year should be enough for the patient to regain movement. He says it depends on the effort and disposition of the patient, and if the patient's condition is not that bad, and they are talented, then they will probably be able to move around without discomfort in about half a year. She thinks this period is not short, but considering that the Blood Spirit Pavilion's physician couldn't even perform any treatment, she says she will put her doubts aside. She then asks him what he wants from her in return. On the other side, Enqua finished the cleaning and appreciated herself for her good work. Suddenly, she hears a sound on the door, thinks it is the third young lord and runs toward the door to open it. But it is the guard of the fourth young master, and he says she shouldn't just open the door for anyone since it could be someone she wasn't expecting. He kidnaps her, takes her to a weird place, and says he has brought her there just to ask for a tiny favor. He asks her to raise her head since he wants to show her something. He offers her a slow, corrosion-prisoned insect and reveals that it's a harmful insect that takes a human body as its host. It starts acting 2 days after entering the human body, and then it will enter the host's internal organs and eat whatever is in its way, causing the host to die in excruciating pain. However, if she drinks the antidote before the insect can act, then there will be no problem. One of his men has kept a sword on her neck, and she seems so scared and asks him why she is telling her about this. He states that she has to come there every other day to report on the third young lord's activities in exchange for the antidote, and she has to do this without anyone knowing. He grabs her hair and is about to put the insect in her mouth. He says she won't be in pain until she listens to his orders. She might lose her vision if the insect accidentally gets into her eye, and she is so scared she just calls her young master to save her. On the other hand, Hajin is with Yeonsim, and she asks him what he wants from her. She knows that he came to see her because she wants something from him. His knowledge has saved one of her people, and she wants to show him her gratitude. Hajin thinks he saved lives before when he was living as an assassin. It was when he was killing the political enemy of the righteous Heavenly Alliance's master. One of his men came to him and informed him about 2 girls who were still alive. They seemed to be subordinates of the dead. His men reached them and asked if they thought they wouldn't be discovered if they hid. Fortunately, their names weren't on the list of people to kill, and his men thought they would get some good food out of the guys. They cried for help and asked them to leave them, and his men said they should be grateful that they didn't kill them. They were about to kill them when Hajin reached there and asked them to stop and let the kids go since their mission was over. His men asked him what he was doing since they could get a lot of money after selling them. He exclaimed that the mission might be over for him since he killed those who needed to be killed, but they got them as a reward and asked him to stay out of there. He said Hajin killed his best friend's wife and children without even blinking an eye, and now he is suddenly being kind to some random girls. He then turns toward the girl and is about to attack her again, while Hajin gets furious and kills the man. In a while, he killed both of his companions and saved the girls. He then asked the girls to run and told them that there was a village about 10 kilometers east of there. He didn't know when he might change his mind, so he asked them to hurry up and get out of sight. One of the women asks him why he is pretending to be kind when he killed their family in front of them. She asked him to kill them too because they couldn't thank them if he saved them. She shouts at him, saying he is no different than those people. At that time, he knew that it was hypocrisy because they were killing their families in front of them and then paying their savior. She cursed him that he would never live happily even after his death, and it wasn't that he was sad to have been insulted after saving them. It just felt like this was all his life was going to be, and the life he was leading already felt like hell. At present, he says there is indeed something he wants from her, but now he will give it up. She is surprised to hear that he is giving up on something he wanted earlier and is now giving her this precious knowledge for nothing. She asks him why he is doing her such a huge favor, and Hajin replies that it's a little difficult to explain. He exclaims that she must have been trying to obtain the green turtle 4-leaf clover because they were someone important to her, and he thinks that person would be bad. Knowing that he doesn't want to make a deal using someone's life, it will be too cold of him to ask for payment. She is shocked at him and thinks the third young lord used to be the worst of all, and now she feels like she is talking to a soft-hearted newbie merchant rather than the ruthless third young lord of the divine cult. She is so confused and says she doesn't understand why he is giving her such a huge favor. Besides, he has never even met that person. He pours some drink into the glass and says in this world, people can kill others they have never met, so what's the matter with saving someone he has never met? However, drinking with her has made him feel better, and he also exclaims that he didn't think she would meet with the fourth young lord. It's refreshing to get one back at someone who has been sharpening his blade behind his back. She thinks it's a given that successor candidates will fight and betray each other, but no one would say it openly, even if one has such thoughts. She thinks he wants something else from her because he was cold, vicious, and unforgiving before that. The third young lord is never satisfied with anything less than first place, and she wonders what has caused so much change in him. She wonders if he has changed because of the Kai blockage or the solitary bamboo grove. He then says if she wants to give something in return, she should often serve some light dishes at the restaurant. He asks her if food management is also a responsibility of the Internal Enlightenment Facility. He states that the food is good, but the spices are a bit too much. She ignores his discussion and asks him if he wants the information of the other young lord and ladies. Hajin thinks she is very intelligent, as expected of the master of the Internal Enlightenment Facility. He reveals that he wants to know the information and relationships of everyone in the cult. After some time, when they were about to leave, Hajin thanked her for spending a good time with him, and she also thanked him for receiving great help from him. They say goodnight to each other, and Hajin leaves with Dongpul. After that, her subordinate calls her and says if the information he gave him falls into someone else's hands, then they can be in danger. She exclaims that she is also aware of this, but she has received something much more valuable from him, and has to risk at least that much. At the same time, they both leave, and he asks Dongpul to have a third round with just two of them. Yeonsum is watching them and thinks he knows all there is to know about the major figures in the cult, but he just met someone who destroyed that confidence. She wonders what the third young lord wants to do and where he is heading. She orders her man to report her if there is any news about the third young lord. The following day, he reads the extensive documents from So Yeonsum, including details of the traits of the prominent figures of the cult and their secrets. However, he is taking this information with a grain of salt, as they are just subjective evaluations from one perspective, but even if just half of these are true, then it is fascinating. On the surface, it looks like a vertical organizational structure in which all facilities are loyal only to the orders of the Demon Lord. However, according to So Yeonsum's investigation, that is not the case, and she has recorded all of the veiled fights over the struggle to expand influence, and all of the alliances, betrayals, and grudges. The disciples are no exception in this struggle, even though they are said to be independent of the divine cult's system of authority. After a while, he finds the name of the Berserk Demon Squad leader, thinks this guy sounds interesting, and decides to read more closely from there. In the meantime, Ankwa appears there and asks him about the meal, and when he tastes the food, he feels that it tastes different from usual. She replies that they have been procuring ingredients that are milder in taste recently. He remembers he was the one who asked Yeonsum to do this, and thinks she is someone who remembers even such a trivial matter. Ankwa also offers food to Jackal and calls him Mr. Fox. Haejin asks her why she is calling him Mr., and he replies that it is because he doesn't have a name yet. He also realizes that they have been together for quite a while, but he hasn't given it a name. He asks Ankwa for her opinion, and she replies that if it has big ears, then they can call him Big Ears. After that, he suggests he keep his name Big Tail, but he doesn't like it and says he will name him himself. Since he is a golden fox, he named him Goldie, and he tells Ankwa that the names she came up with are very bad. He likes the name he kept for him and calls himself a naming genius. He then asks her to eat dinner by herself since he might not be back for tonight. On the other side, Dongpul is training and thinks the third young master's martial art is different from his. He is quick to change strategies and can think outside the box. He thinks this might be why the third young master became stronger so quickly. He is practicing when the second young leader appears there and praises him for his martial arts. He is impressed that he destroyed a boulder from such a distance using only his basic technique, but Dongpul says he is still lacking. His name is Gi Young, and he states that it looks like he has grown quite a bit while working for the third young lord. Watching him train made him forget that he had something to tell him, and he told him that the third young lord stopped by the guardian court. He was looking for him, so Gi Young told him he was training, so he left immediately. Also, he said that he would be attending the Berserk Demon Squad's gathering today. Gi Young tries to say something more, but Dongpul runs away from there to follow the third young master, thinking he should not get involved with the Berserk Demon Squad. The Berserk Demon Squad has a name that indicates all the insane demons it is made up of. They adopt a fighting style that shows no mercy and know neither compromise nor conversation. They are the most terrible squad of the divine cult, and they are known for never stopping until their enemy is ripped to pieces. On top of that, they don't differentiate between friend and foe. Today, they have a get-together after a long time. One of them forcefully opens the gate of a restaurant, but they are shocked to see no one there except one man. He calls his owner and asks if they are not open yet. He is Berserk Demon Squad's second leader, Chagwang, and calls Hajin repeatedly, but he ignores them and remains busy playing with Goldie. He comes near him and asks why he is not answering, or if he doesn't know that they have rented out this entire place today. Hajin replies if they rented out or the owner kicked out everyone because he was scared of them. He asks them to show him an official notice saying that they have rented this entire place, but Chagwang gets angry about this and is about to attack him when a girl enters there and asks him to back down. Hajin awaited her since she was the youngest and most violent of the divine cult's squad leaders. She is the leader of the Berserk Escad, Yui Hongron, and she asks Chagwang to stop behaving rashly. She then asks Hajin if he knows who they are, and he replies it would be harder for him not to know who they are. He calls them a bunch of crazies who don't know any manners, and she realizes that he doesn't seem to be of ordinary status. He also doesn't look like someone who would go around picking fights recklessly, and Hajin asks her to sit down if she has something to say. She asks him why she listens to him, and Hajin says looking up at her is making his neck hurt. She reveals her demonic energy, and he observes that her demonic energy is pretty good. Meanwhile, the owner appears there and asks them to step aside since he has brought all the best dishes for their esteemed guest. He calls the squad leader and asks her not to threaten his guest, but Chagwang puts the sword on his neck and asks him to repeat what he just said. He asks him to give him 30 reasons why they can't touch him, and then he will let him live. The owner reveals that he is the divine cult's third young lord and the disciple of the demon lord. After some time, the restaurant is full of people who are all demanding food from the owner. Meanwhile, the squad leader is with Hajin at a table and asks him why the third young lord has come there, and she hears that he is suffering from Kai blockage. Chagwang is also sure that he was in a state of Kai blockage when they left and thinks he must be weak now. They can take action as soon as possible as he gets on the squad leader's nerves, but the other man forbids him to do so because he is the third young lord and is a potential successor. He wonders what he can accomplish with a body that came back from the gates of hell, and even if he is a successor, he is of no use because he is so weak. Chagwang states that if a potential demon lord candidate were to be beaten up by a combat squad, then he can't even say anything for the sake of his reputation. Meanwhile, the squad leader asks him if he already knows that they are going to gather there for dinner. He asks him what he wants from her, and Hajin is glad that she gets straight to the point. He says he doesn't like to beat around the bush either. He asks her to turn herself into the penal law hall, which is the chance he gives her. She understands what he is talking about and gets angry about this, releasing her demonic energy. Hajin says even if she turns herself in, it will just count as a minor offense and result in self-reflection or a pay cut, and it won't be a big deal, and the penal law hall won't be able to lock her up over such a crime. She is surprised to see him, who appeared out of nowhere, and she wonders how much he knows about them. She says she has not committed any crimes. He then asks her why the berserk demoness code spends 1,000 yang on SWAD expenses every month, and they are #1 in cruelty, not strength. Even the heavenly demons' first army uses only 800 nayan a month, but they are spending more than 1,000. It is revealed that So Yeonsim's internal enlightenment facility manages the cult's finances, and the information she gives him includes budget records that show the size of the combat squads. Last night, he read about the berserk demon squad, and there is no way a small squad like hers is made up of a group of uncontrollable crazy people that come and go and can have a larger budget than the cult's main army. That must mean they are receiving extra money from someone else other than the budget from the cult, and there is only one person in the cult who would do such an underhanded thing. So he assumed that she just happened to receive money at a dinner or something somehow and said if she turned herself in, he wouldn't make a big deal out of it. But in return, she has to tell him the name of the person who gave her that money. She smiles, thinks she wasn't his target from the start, and feels herself being treated like a chess piece in the power struggle between the young lords. She gets up and says she doesn't know where he came across those false rumors, and if he is there to pressure her, then he must bring proper proof. Haejin asks him if a crime without evidence is considered a crime, and if it is her hobby to make things more complicated than they have to be. She states that the third young lord is the one who made things cumbersome and gets up, saying she is taking her leave now. Haejin calls her and says she distributed all the money from the fourth young lord to her squad members, which is why her squad expenditure is rather hefty. Everyone knows that she can't spend like that with just the budget she is given, and threatens her, saying all of her subordinates will be arrested for accepting money from unidentified sources if they were to investigate their expenditure. If that happens, the Berserk Demon Squad will either be reorganized or disbanded, and she asks him if he wants to see this through till the end. He observes with her tone that things will be fine as long as she turns herself in, and asks her what she will do now. She replies that she can't leave cuts on an influential person like him, and he thinks she fell for his plan. Suddenly, Chagwang appears from the side and rushes to attack him, but before he can reach him, he uses his demonic energy and pushes him back away. He falls back to the ground at a distance, and Haejin wonders if he used too much force on him. Their squad leader gets furious and says she doesn't want any violence today because it has been long since her squad has had a party, but he crosses the line. She furiously rushes toward Haejin to attack, and he tries to dodge her, thinking she is fast and sharp, admiring her, and thinking she is pretty good. She states that it's the first dinner party they have had in a year, and she can't forgive anyone who disrupts a joyous day like this, even if that person is the disciple of the Demon Lord. Haejin asks her to watch her words, and it's not him who ruined the dinner, but it is her stupid subordinate. Meanwhile, everyone starts watching them and wonders why their leader and the third young lord are fighting. She again jumps toward him to attack and says he should have just stayed home to reset if he has recovered from Kai blockage. She asks him why he came there to mess up things. But Haejin not only dodges her attack, but punches her back, saying she should pay attention to what is happening in the cult. She falls back, and Haejin is happy about the success of his counterattack. She gets up, saying she doesn't care if he is the third young lord. She threatens him, saying he is dead now, and he confidently asks her to come and see who wins the fight. Conversely, the fourth young lord is informed about his activity, and his subordinate tells him that the situation is not good. He thinks the third is probably after him, and he is sure he is trying to put a wedge between him and the Berserk Demon squad leader. The man asks him if he should do something about this, but he asks him not to worry because he trusts the squad leader since she doesn't have a loose tongue. He smiles and thinks they should be fighting because he knows the third won't win against the squad leader. Moreover, even if it is the third young master or homegrown, neither will come out of that fight unscathed. He shows him the green jade demon arts the Berserk Demon squad leader is said to have mastered, and she throws an attack toward Haejin using the technique. He tries to tell her that they are in a building, but she doesn't listen to him, and the attack gets out of the building, causing destruction. He heard that once she gets mad, she will be blinded with rage, and now he sees that the rumors were right about her. He tells her he is fine fighting, but asks her not to damage other people's property. The restaurant owner gets unconscious over the destruction of his restaurant, and Haejin asks her to use the money from the fourth lord for compensation. But she again attacks him, asking what is so funny that he is smiling, and Haejin thinks it was quite a strong punch he faced just now. Her follow-up attack is also quite robust. He is just trying to dodge her attacks individually. She then jumps upon him to attack again, and he feels that she has become even more robust, and is almost too strong for him to just be on the defense. He can now understand why the fourth young lord gave her money because her combat abilities are worth it. However, she doesn't seem like the type who can be swayed by money. She exclaims that it has been long since she had such an exhilarating fight, and he wonders why she accepted his money. Everyone was enjoying their fight, and she called her squad to listen up to them. She states that their previous dinner party has been ruined because of her personal affairs, but she will take care of this even if it means she gets sent to the penal hall. She orders her squad to enjoy their dinner and not to focus on their fight, and they all cheer up for their leader. Haejin smiles and thinks the entire squid lives up to the squad name, as expected of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult. It's full of exciting people. He calls them a heartwarming organization and wonders if he is too naive. He didn't think someone this talented would have taken shady money from the fourth young lord. He can forget about manipulating her and thinks he should beat her up enough that she starts listening to him. In the meantime, Goldie enters and he shouts at him about what he is doing there since he told him to stay outside. The squad leader asks him if he is getting distracted when she is standing right there and prepares an attack toward him, saying he underestimates her. Haejin observes she is going to use palm force again and he tries to stop her for Goldie. He asks her to attack him in a little bit and tells her that Goldie is his cute little friend and they can continue the fight once he goes somewhere safe. She doesn't listen to him and uses his palm attack on Goldie. He uses the Heavenly Net 6 power technique, second hyper vision, and catches Goldie. But it's too late for him to dodge the attack, so he decides to block it with his body. There is enormous destruction, and the squad leader laughs at him, saying that is the power of the Berserk Demon squad leader. She thinks the disruption has been resolved, so she orders her men to have the dinner party for real. She asks everyone to enjoy their heart's contents while Haejin calls him and says he can't forgive her. She exclaims that his mouth is fine and orders her men to carry the third young lord to his residence. One of her men heads toward him and asks him to go home instead of just lying there, and is making fun when Haejin grabs his face and throws him toward the others. The squad leader also gets hit by his attack and falls to the ground. He angrily asks her how she dares to land his hands on his little Goldie. He releases his demonic energy and asks her not to be mean to animals. Meanwhile, Dongpul reaches there, but the fight has already started, and he thinks he needs to get the young master out of there before the fight gets any worse. Meanwhile, the squad leader is shocked to see that he is still fine, and she wonders how this can be possible since he got hit directly with the green jade demon arts. She didn't hold back at all with her demonic arts, but she was shocked to see him standing there. Dongpul appears and asks him if he is okay and needs to get out of there. He asks Dongpul not to stop him, and he is not leaving this place until he has wrecked them. He asks the squad leader if she knows who he is, but she replies that she doesn't care about this. She asks him to get out because he is not part of this. In the meantime, Haejin reaches and punches her face with his full might and throws her away out of the building. She is shocked and wonders what was the attack just now because she couldn't see his movement at all. She has more than 20 years of experience in battles where she had to fight for her life, yet she couldn't even react at all. Haejin asks her if she thinks she can leave there alive after laying her hands on Goldie. She also releases her demonic energy and says she was nice to him because he is the third young lord, but now she will kill him. Dongpul tries to stop him, but she uses the Berserk Demon Divine Fist, and he is shocked to see that this crazy woman really intent on taking the young master's life. She rushes toward him and attacks, but Haejin stays there unharmed. He then asks her if she is done with her attack and pushes her away with just his fist. She falls to the ground, and Haejin says her punches are slow. She gets up and calls him a rat, but Haejin gets furious, throws a punch on the ground, and asks how dare she call him a rat. She dodges herself from falling and reaches him, saying there is no one except him they're worthy of calling a rat. She exclaims that she can easily defeat someone like him with his Berserk Demon Divine Fist, and he asks what she means by someone like him. She is shocked to see that her Berserk Divine Fist couldn't pierce his demonic energy, while he uses the time to kick her and push her back. She starts bleeding and wonders if the Demon Lord's disciples are all this strong, and she has never met someone this strong. He then jumps upon her to attack again, but she quickly dodges his attack. She wonders if this is how her life is going to end, and if she will die after having survived countless dangers. She is shocked that her men are watching her with such pity and thinks she looks pathetic because she can't do anything. Haejin again rushes to attack him, and she can see her death in front of her. She remembers the time when she entered the cult, and everyone was shocked to see a girl from the EU family's bloodline. The Yui family was ruined after harassing the divine cult, and no one liked her back then. She didn't care how she was treated as long as she could survive. After her family fell to ruin, she entered the divine cult, and she was put into a squad called the Berserk Demon Squad, which was said to be just a group of people the divine cult didn't care about. No one went easy on her just because she was a kid, and even there, she was ignored for being an outsider. So, she didn't go easy on anyone just because they were adult. Through countless battlefields, she killed and killed again and survived. After that, she had a battle to the death with the former squad leader and finally rose to her position as the Berserk Demon Squad leader. The Berserk Demon Squad became a family she had to lead and protect. No one in the cult dares to speak their name lightly, but now a random boy has challenged them, and she wonders if her life is going to end. Haejin observes that she has pulled herself together while getting beaten up and admitted that she is tough. She takes out her sword and asks him not to underestimate him since she is the Berserk Demon Squad's leader. Haejin observes that her sword aura is blue, and she is at the level where her sword follows her will. As a fellow martial artist who has practiced in the way of the sword, it is only right that he wields his too. He can sense Hongron's current feelings through his hypersensation, and she rushes toward him with killing intent. She has anger, anxiety, shock, stubbornness, a sense of honor, and a loss of acknowledgement in her eyes. He knows that she is also aware that she has lost the fight. He thought she had lost her mind, but he guessed that she still had some sense left in her, and he decided to give her a lesson as the winner. When she comes forward to attack him, he uses the technique of steel wall hand and throws her away. She had lost the battle, and Haejin was impressed that she had pierced his steel wall hand. Even though he did it in a rush, he still uses a lot of dark shadow kai. It is stated that the steel wall hand is a hand technique in the Chronicle of the Myriad Realms. It is a skill that contradicts the explosive mountain blast, which maximizes internal power. It is a deadly technique that turns one's hand into something akin to steel to destroy everything it touches. She would be more well versed in the sword than he expected if she could pierce through the steel wall hand and injure his hand. He then exclaims that the fight was impressive, but that is where she ends. She used all she had for that sword aura earlier, and she barely managed to stand. He says that he will give her a choice. First, she will turn herself in and say that she received money from the fourth young lord, and second, she will end her life for disrespecting and attempting to murder the third young lord. She asks him to shut his mouth, and Hajin takes his sword and says she doesn't like that some random person came out of nowhere and started telling her what to do. He is about to attack her, saying he will stop talking and end this fight there, and he swings his sword. Yon is ready to face her death, but he thwarts the sword and says she has been acting like a mad dog till now, but now she looks like a gentle sheep. He asks her why she didn't dodge the attack, and she replies that she didn't have the strength to do so. He asks her if she is ready to accept her death, and she replies that the loser has to die, and that's how it goes. All the battles she has fought were a matter of life or death, and she states that she didn't live a good enough life to have regrets or anything like that. She knew that she would someday die at someone else's hand, just like everyone she had killed. Hajin comes forward and punches her face, and says he will forgive her disrespect and other petty crimes with this punch. She says she won't be his obedient dog just because he spares her life. He replies that he crushes the bait on the hook himself, and the fish would never bite the hook now. He wanted to use her to pressure the fourth young lord, but they fought to the death. He then apologizes to the restaurant owner and gives him some money for the repairs. He then warns the squad leader not to steal money from him, and she also shouts at him and asks if he thinks she is some hooligan from the alleys. He replies that the hooligan is a saint compared to her and calls Donpul to follow him. Chagwang comes to her and asks if she is okay, but she doesn't seem okay at all. She asks him to clean up a bit and orders some drinks. She always thought all the young lords were nasty cheats, but the third young lord is different. She thinks he is an idiot who has nothing but brute strength. Conversely, the fourth young lord meditates and wonders how the third young lord knew about this. He kept it well concealed that he gave the Berserk Demon squad leader money. They say there are no eternal secrets, but it should not have been revealed so quickly. The only person who would know about this is the facility master, and he is sure that she did this crime. She said she wouldn't interfere in the succession conflict, but this means that the third young master has changed her mind. He thinks it doesn't matter to him because he will kill him soon enough, and no one will ever see him again. His incense infused with concentrated deadly poison will seep into his lungs and paralyze his body, and he will die in agony. He thinks it is terrible that the seventh young lady hasn't improved, and she has barely eaten anything today too. He thinks this is bad because she can't even sleep if she doesn't have that incense. He also gives this to Anghwa and orders her to burn this at the third young lord's bedside when he is sleeping. She asks his man what that is, but he forbids her to ask unnecessary questions. She asks him how she can put something by the young master's bedside when he doesn't even know what it does and refuses to do so. He threatens him, saying after 2 days, the parasite in her body will begin to take action. If she doesn't take the antidotes on time, it will be unbearable. After some time, she is called by the young master, and he asks her to bring him some food for Goldie. He observes that she has been looking tired lately, but he thinks he is misunderstanding and turns toward Goldie. He thinks this animal looks strange lately and wonders why he got so upset when the squad leader tried to attack him. He believes he has become so fond of him without realizing it, and he feels they are connected. However, he thinks this is impossible that he shares Kai with a beast, but he is not an ordinary beast either. In the meantime, someone knocked at their door and said they were from Penal Law Hall and asked him to open it. Donpul opens the gate and tells him that Penal Law Hall is looking for him. He reveals that the Berserk Demon squad leader went and confessed. He is shocked to hear that she confessed to having disrespected and attempted to murder the third young lord. He then asks her why she did this when he already told her that he forgave her transgressions with that punch. She doesn't reply to him, and Hajin asks her why she is causing all this fuss and making things annoying for him. She shouts at him, saying she is sitting there to confess her crimes. He doesn't get her point and says there is no mercy for the attempted murder of a young lord or lady, and as soon as she admits that she did that, her head would go flying. She asks him to kill her if he wants to, and he thinks she is out of her mind. He is pretty sure that he did not hit her head, and she replies that she did get struck on the head. He asks her to tell him what she thinks actually, and she replies that there's no reason for her to say to him. He observes her and asks if she is doing this because of the fourth young lord. He asks her if she is doing this to keep her promise to him, but if she were going to keep her mouth shut, she should have done that till the end. He wonders if she confessed to harming him, and starts laughing and says she is not the Berserk Demon squad leader for nothing. He calls an officer and orders him to free the Berserk Demon squad leader, and he surprisingly asks him why he is doing this when she confesses the crime of attempted murder. He replies that he merely taught her a lesson because he liked her, and her face is like that because he couldn't control his strength. Even if she's crazy, she is a follower of the cult, so she would never try to kill the Demon Lord's disciple. The officer agrees with him, but considering the witnesses and the situation, they can't let her free. Hajin releases his demonic energy and says the person who's involved is saying it isn't true, so why do they have a problem with this? He agrees to free the Berserk Demon squad leader. He asks her if she likes drinking, but she stays silent and doesn't answer him. He states that he will take that as a yes and asks her to come over when she has time, and they will drink together. He also asks her to bring her snacks because he can't burden his servant with more work. After that, Donpul asks him why the Berserk Demon squad leader did such a thing, and he tells him that she did this to live. He found out that she accepted money from the fourth young lord, but she can't admit that she took his money when she promised him she wouldn't, and she couldn't let her squad members get involved. Considering her personality, she would probably rather kill herself than have her subordinates also receive punishment. Donpal asks him why he left the place after the fight, and she could have just not confessed and pretended it didn't happen. Too many people had witnessed the fight for that option, and the restaurant was also destroyed. Someone had to take responsibility and go to the panel law hall, or things would have worsened. Hajin states that besides apart from him and the witness, Honggrown has another threat to worry about. The fourth young lord, Hong Yuamun, she fought the third young lord, and if the incident happened just like that, the fourth young lord would think she had taken his side. If he were to spread rumors that the Berserk Demon Squad accepted bribery, both she and her squad members would be harmed. Therefore, confessing to the penal law hall was her best option, and in that way, the fourth young lord wouldn't have any suspicions, and the other witnesses would think the incident was being taken care of. As she took all the blame, then her subordinates are safe too. But Donpal says the charges are showing disrespect towards and attempting to murder him, the third young lord. All he has to do is say a few words, and she will be dead. He asks him why she would risk her life when she doesn't know what to do. Hajin also thinks this was reckless of her, but that's probably how she has lived her life, thinking that every day could be her last. Donpal says she left too wholly to luck, and Hajin says she got what she wanted. She wanted to protect her subordinates, and he says she's eccentric, but she takes excellent care of her subordinates. Donpal is surprised at how he has such insight at such a young age. Sometimes he feels like the young master is more mature and older than him. Suddenly, someone bangs on the door, and Hajin says she will break the door and asks her to come in. The squad leader enters the doorway and asks him to give the promised drink, and she also makes food to go with it. They are shocked to see that she has brought delicious food, and they shockingly ask her if she made all these items. She asks him why they are shocked to see this, and she is outstanding at cooking, and he doesn't need to eat this if he doesn't want to. He tells Donpal that he thought she was the craziest one in the entire divine cult, and asks him if he is not sure she is the best cook. He isn't aware that she can cook either. After that, she starts drinking from a bowl and states that drinking out of a small glass doesn't allow him to taste the alcohol. She observes Donpal standing there and asks why he is not sitting. He asks him if he doesn't want to join them, then he can rest instead of standing there. He replies that he can't go because no one knows if the Berserk Demon Squad leader will suddenly go off the rails. She says he is more loyal than she thinks and asks him if he really thinks he can stop her. Hajin interrupts and says that considering her state, he thinks Donpal can trounce him, but she gets angry about this. Hajin asks him why she comes straight to his place as soon as she is freed instead of returning to rest, and he doesn't think she would go so openly. He says it will be bad for her if the fourth young lord finds out about this, and she replies that there is no time for him to worry about him. He might be in more danger than her, and she says the fourth young lord is proficient in using dirty tricks. From what she knows, more people are secretly under his control, and they are people who do anything as long as they get paid. On the other side, the fourth young lord's subordinates ask him if they should contact the true demon squad leader, and he replies that there is no need for this. If the Berserk Demon Squad leader couldn't defeat the third young lord, it would be the same for the true demon squad leader, so it's a bad idea to call for him. He tells him that the squad leader has been freed because of the third young lord. He states that he did consider the possibility that the Berserk Demon Squad leader has betrayed him, but he doesn't have to take care of that now. He asks him what is happening with the poison incense, and he tells him that the maid hasn't reported back to him for 2 days now. He picks up another insect and says he will give this to his one loyal servant, Donpal, and hopes that he will like this. He thinks while the third young lord has been acting all high and mighty, he probably hasn't even looked into his own house, and he will show him what it feels like to be helpless. At the same time, the squad leader tells him that the fourth young lord has bought over several people with money, and some of them are after Hajin's life. He asks her why she is telling this to him, and she points toward the bowl of alcohol and says it's her payment for telling him this. He pours him some more drink, and they continue their conversation. After that, she leaves the home with Donpal and asks him if the third young lord was always like that. He warns her just in case, but she should better hold back on any criticism against the young master in front of him. She says he is just showing them how he trains, and she says she will leave, but he says he can watch if she wants. Donpal tells him that there is something he always says, no world more dangerous than the Murim. So if it's a world where one can only survive by staying alert, he would rather show both his strengths and weaknesses. She wonders how his statement makes sense, and Donpal says that is how the third young lord stays alert and on his toes. He said that he's anxious sometimes, but he also said that true freedom begins with honesty. Since his path is already destined, regardless of what others see or say, he will walk his path. The squad leader is shocked to hear such statements of honesty from someone and thinks she has never met someone like him. She didn't know someone with that kind of mindset actually existed and asked Donpal if he was younger than them. Donpal says age doesn't matter when it comes to learning. Meanwhile, Hajin is training and thinks even if he doesn't focus on using the heaven elevation technique now, it balances well with demonic arts. Initially, he did nothing with the heaven elevation technique, which he learned as an assassin, as he wanted to focus on the dark shadow demonic art. He thinks there's no need to throw out his assassin technique to learn demonic arts. In the first place, it was arrogant of him to think of splitting up his martial arts like that. If he wants to kill, it will be an assassin technique. If not, it will be an overpowering technique. It all depends on whom he is dealing with. At first, he thought he already knew that, but it's taken on a new meaning now that he has learned demonic arts. By learning other types of martial arts, his perspective has broadened, and now he has more ways of utilizing martial arts too. Suddenly, Donpal claps and praises him for his training, and he asks them if they want something to help with the hangover. The squad leader says she wants a hangover drink, and Hajin is surprised to learn that she wants a drink to cure her hangover. He takes them to his home for the hangover soup and asks her to go home if she wants alcohol. Suddenly, he is surprised to see Angwa unconscious there, and when he tries to get up to her, she tells him that her stomach hurts really bad. He finds out that she has internal injuries and there is something inside eating her alive. She tries to tell him that she couldn't do it as they told her to. He asks her if something happened to her, but she gets unconscious and her state is worsening rapidly, and he thinks he has to save her life first. On the other side, the first guardian tells the demon lord that all preparations for the Mara festival are complete. Even if there are any small changes they have to make, they can take care of it immediately without a problem. Demon lord appreciates him and asks him if he likes a drink that would be an honor for him. He presents him with a glass of alcohol and tells him that there is a good fenju there. When he takes the drink, the demon lord asks him about the third young lord, and he replies that he hasn't heard anything about him ever since the incident with the berserk demon squad leader. The demon lord says he is not asking him about his activities, but he is asking about his changes. The first guardian reveals that there is nothing worth mentioning about the third young lord at the moment. He thinks the jackal chose the third lord in a different way, but if there are not any changes in him, then it is perhaps just fate at work. It is revealed that, unlike other creatures that were manifested into reality from the imagination of the person who created the solitary bamboo grove, the jackal is a real mystical creature that repeats the cycle of life and death. When it abandons its age's body and returns to being a newborn, it absorbs all the life force in its surroundings. This is the reason it is considered one of the world's most wicked creatures. However, there is another real reason why the jackal is considered wicked. Wherever a jackal appears, war is bound to happen in that nation. Because of the legend that the jackal absorbs life force and causes wars, it is seen as the worst disaster on Earth. At the same time, Hajin is treating Anqua and feels toxic energy inside her and thinks it is surely one of the poisonous insects. Her internal injuries aren't so bad that they are life-threatening yet. However, as a young maidservant without any martial prowess, she won't be able to last long with this toxic energy in her. He decides to take out the poison insect and has to use the Boundless Technique's purification technique to maximize her body's healing power. He noticed that Anqua had been looking anxious the last few days, but he didn't know that they had put poison insects inside her. He wonders who could have done such a cruel and despicable thing to a young maidservant like her. He uses his technique and takes out the poison insect from her body and finds out that it is the slow corrosion poison insect. They weren't just trying to harm her because this is a poisonous insect that's used to threaten someone with their life so as to enslave them. He thinks whoever is behind this was trying to threaten Anqua into hurting him, and there's only one person who would come after him with just a despicable method. At the same time, the squad leader also finds things that say Angwa is a spy planted by the fourth young lord. She tells Donkpal about the incense and that it's the same as the one she saw in the fourth young lord's residence. The fact that this was found on the servant means something, and since she was afflicted with a poison insect, perhaps they threatened her. However, she must have known that her life was in danger, but she still disobeyed the orders, and they think the third young lord has a very loyal servant. She asks Donkpal if he is really a part of the divine cult, and there is only one reason to do all this. This is a fight for succession, and if all other disciples were to vanish, then the last one remaining would naturally become the demon lord. On the other side, the fourth young lord asks his servant Shin if he is worried about how the third young lord will react. He asks him not to worry because he is always prepared for the worst, and Shin replies he is not sure what kind of worst-case scenario he has in his mind. But if that were to happen, he would take responsibility and ask the fourth lord to abandon him. He seems relaxed and also asks him to stop worrying needlessly, and he makes plans for every possible move that the third young lord could make. He says it's about time he did something, and Shin tells him that he has placed people around the third young lord's residence. Suddenly, they were shocked to hear an explosion from outside. The third lord enters there by destroying the gate, and all the guards get injured. He shouts the name of the fourth young lord and asks him to come outside and not hide like a bug anymore. He comes outside and asks him why he is behaving like this, and he should be ashamed of himself as the young lord. He makes fun and asks him what brings him there with such a funny expression. Hajin gets angry about this and punches him with his full might. He jumps backward and exclaims he was a bit nervous because he heard that he had become a different person after waking up from Kai blockages, but now it seems like those were all false rumors. He calls him the same old hooligan, acting rashly without a care, while Hajin calls him angrily and says he will cut off the dirty hands he plays tricks with. The fourth young lord says he started this fight, so he doesn't expect him to treat him with respect just because he is the Hyang Nim. He says the third lord is no different from a corpse just 8 months ago, but he is now full of himself. He uses the Serpent King's demonic art, and Hajin is surprised to see this and wonders if this is the Gyeoksa family's demonic art. The fourth rushes toward him at his full speed, and Hajin thinks the strength of this demonic art is in its speed and flexibility, but its power is not very significant. His foot techniques are pretty good though, but he is able to dodge his attacks. Hajin is impressed by his foot techniques at this age, and thinks he is a disciple of the Demon Lord for a reason. However, there's nothing compared to him, while the fourth lord gets angry at him, and says he used quite a unique foot technique, but it means nothing to him. Hajin again dodges his attacks and thinks his movements are as obvious as ever, but he uses his sharp nails and penetrates them through his body. He smiles and says this is the end for him, and Hajin finds out that he had poison under his nails. He then punches him and makes him fall to the ground. He states that he has injected poison directly into his body, and if he uses his demonic energy to burn off the poison, he will burn his organs too. It will be so painful that he would want to die, but that's the only thing he can do if he wants to live, and asks him to become crippled like before and live like a corpse once more. But he is shocked to see him moving, and Hajin again appears there, saying he can't defeat him with this kind of poison. He is shocked to see that the third has nullified the snake poison of Serpent King's demonic art. Hajin thinks in his previous life, he was able to complete missions even with broken limbs and holes in his belly, and enduring this much poison is nothing for him. He then releases his demonic energy, which causes all his guards to bleed, and the fourth finds out that it's not just powerful demonic energy. This sense of alienation and terror is something he would expect to feel from seeing the Great Nine demonic elders. He wonders if he has reached the ultimate demon stage. Hajin comes forward and is about to attack him when the Penal Law Hall's black guard appears there and asks them to stop. They surround the fourth young lord, and one of them introduces himself as the seventh guard captain of the Penal Law Hall's black guard. They ask Hajin to come with them to the Penal Law Hall. Hajin is shocked at how they got there so quickly, and it seems as if someone knew this would happen. Shin thinks this was the preparation the fourth lord was talking about. Hajin takes a moment from the guard and grabs Shin's mouth tightly. He shows him the poisoned insect he fed Anqua and says he brought it with him because he really wanted to return it to him. He also exclaims that he doesn't need to worry about swallowing it because he will shove it deep down his throat. The fourth young lord rushes toward him and asks him to stop doing that while Shin calls him for help. Hajin called the fourth lord and said his servant was skilled with the poison, so he would have an antidote for this, heal in a few days, and come with another dirty trick in his hand. He pulls out his hand and says he won't do such a meaningless thing and then puts it in his ear. Shin cries in pain and falls to the ground and asks the Penal Law Guard to accompany him. After some time, he reaches the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult Penal Law Hall, and he wonders where they are taking him since they have already done the interrogation. This isn't the direction of the jail where squad leader Hongron was incarcerated. He feels the poison he was suppressing with his demonic energy has begun to spread because the fourth lord was using martial arts involving poison. The incense he was using was definitely a kind of hallucinogen with poison too, and he probably trained his martial arts by fighting imaginary opponents in those hallucinations. He did hear that there are a lot of strange techniques in demonic arts, but this is quite a unique approach, and it will take him some time to really understand it. The man takes him to a room. Hajin felt two presences pass the door, and one of them was the fourth young lord. However, the other one is very vague. It's dull but clear, and he feels some unpleasant energy from inside. When he enters the door, he sees a man facing the wall, while the fourth lord sits on the chair. He asks him if he is the hall master of the Penal Law Hall, and he introduces himself as the Penal Law Hall Master Gagu. As far as first impressions go, he looks like just an ordinary person, but everything is not as it seems. His appearance is normal, and he can't feel anything unique about his energy, but that is precisely why he feels like he is not ordinary. Master Gagu asks him to take a seat and asks him if he is tired from the interrogation. Hajin replies he can't sit there and says there must be a reason why he called them both there, and he doesn't know what it is, but he doesn't intend to talk to someone who keeps their inner self concealed. He states that the black guards all wear masks, but he doesn't sense any ambiguity and feels different from others. Hajin says he is wearing a mask that is 100 times thicker than the masks the black guard wears and is keeping himself concealed. The fourth lord is unable to understand what they are talking about, and Master Gagu appreciates Hajin for his keenness. He then removes his mask using bone contraction mystical arts, and they are shocked to see that his face is changing. He shows his real face and says he is the third person even to notice his transformation. He is the real Penal Law Hall Master, and he exclaims that he was wondering how he survived 8 months in the solitary bamboo grove, and it seems like his unparalleled perception played a big role. Hajin asks him to get to the main point, while the fourth is still shocked at how he saw through the Penal Law Hall Master's true face. He reveals that he called both of them there because of their conflict. Hajin says the interrogation is over and the incident's been resolved. He asks both of them to promise that there won't be any more conflict from now on. The fourth lord says he never wanted conflict, and even if that was what he wanted, who would tell him what to do? He thinks he is the disciple of the demon lord, and there is no reason for him to take orders from anyone but the demon lord himself. He also says he has no authority to impose anything on them. Likewise, they don't have the authority to subjugate others, and he tries to use money to control a battle squad commander. The fourth lord is shocked to hear this and asks what he is talking about, but Gagu has enough evidence against him, so there is no need to deny it. The fourth leader asks him if he is threatening him right now, and he states that the Penal Law Hall upholds the cult's laws alongside the Guardian Court, but they are different in nature. The Guardian Court focuses on communication and reception. In other words, they have no choice but to act passively. However, they are different, and they are in an organization that protects the cult. They give out punishments as they see fit and also administer judgment in exceptional cases. But as a person who is actively protecting the cult, he can give them an experience he has never had. He asks the third young lord for his suggestion about the matter, but he is busy eating and doesn't have an idea what he is talking about. However, he says it is not difficult for him to avoid fighting, and says no one would want to make an enemy of the Penal Law Hall. He exclaims he doesn't want to fight anyone either, and it's best to live in peace. He likes the alcohol and says he hasn't tasted something like this before, and Gagu replies that he made it himself. Heijin asks him if he intends to sell it, and he replies he can send a few to his residence. They are having a good conversation while the fourth young lord is watching them furiously. Suddenly, he gets up angrily, says he will never forget this humiliation, and leaves the room, while Hajin calls him from behind and asks him to close the door while leaving. When he has left, Gagu asks him if he wants to talk to him about anything, and he says there is one thing he wants to talk about. He gets how good his bone contraction mystical arts is, but he asks him if there was any reason he used it to meet them. Gagu stays silent, and Hajin says he doesn't have to answer it if he doesn't want to. When he is left, Gagu thinks it has been a long time since he has come across someone so hard to read and has a familiar sense. On the other side, the fourth young lord is walking toward home and thinks how he dares a mere Penal Law Hall Master to threaten a young lord of the divine cult. He thinks he will give a return present to the third young lord soon, and he will ensure that no one gets in the way. Hajin is already present there and says he has a lot of bloodthirst in his eyes, and it seems like he is ready to kill someone right now. He asks him to come to him, and they will have a drink together. He exclaims that the penal law hall master is a bit annoying, but he sure is good at making alcohol. The fourth lord wonders what he wants to do, or if he is going to do something there in the penal law hall's territory. Hajin asks him not to be so worried because he is just offering him a drink to celebrate being freed from interrogation. They both sit there, and the fourth lord thinks he just needs to be relaxed in front of him because he is just his prey. He then asks him what he wants to talk about, and Hajin says he feels like they never had a proper conversation. He replies that they have talked a lot as kids, and Hajin says it feels like they never had a good discussion after growing up. He then asks him if he intends to continue all this, and why he wants to make life hard for himself. The fourth lord replies it was evident that all 7 of them must fight one day, and the moment they became the demon lord's disciples, they became enemies too. Hajin admits that they have to fight, but they don't need to kill each other, and the fourth asks him if he stopped him just to have this kind of conversation. Hajin says he just wants to hear what he is thinking for now, and he replies that he will know if they look at the royals of this land. The fate of the royals who were unable to become emperor lived pitiful lives. In order to avoid that kind of fate, they have to kill even their siblings to become the ruler. Hajin asks him if he wants power, or if he is killing because he is afraid of being killed. The fourth says if he called him to ask such type of questions, then he is leaving. He is about to leave when Hajin says he doesn't want to live a life of fighting and chaos, and asks him if he is going to try to assassinate him again. He leaves it to chance, and things won't go their way though, and waits for his answer. The fourth releases his demonic energy and breaks the bottle of alcohol, saying he is giving him an answer if he really wants that, and exclaims that he will make sure to kill him one day. Suddenly, Hajin attacks him with his demonic energy, and the fourth shockingly asks him what he will do. Hajin says he is determined to kill him one day, so he can't let him go after hearing that kind of answer. He is determined to kill him at the moment. At the same time, the penal hall master is thinking about the young lords and thinks the fourth young lord doesn't seem like he is going to heed his warning. The cult won't be shaken by incidents created by someone like him, and he doesn't know how the third lord will react to this. Meanwhile, the third guard captain appears there and informs him that the third and fourth young lords are fighting again. Hajin says since he attacked first, then he will let him have the next attack. The fourth lord takes out his poisonous nails and is ready to attack him, and Hajin says his martial arts technique sure takes a while to get prepared, which is why he can't respond to an ambush. He shouts at him, saying he made a mistake by warning him, and jumps upon him, saying he will kill him. Their demonic energies collide with each other, and there is considerable destruction there. Hajin pushes him backward and asks how he is going to kill anyone with a technique like that. He thinks he is definitely more substantial than the Berserk Demon squad leader, and he is sure he would be able to kill her within 10 turns. It's not that he can't beat him, but the poison from earlier is getting in his way, and he won't be able to end this fight until that's taken care of. The fourth lord calls him disrespectfully and rushes toward him to attack, saying he doesn't deserve respect. He dodges his attack with his hand and says he needs to be faster than that. He asks him how he dares to do anything when he is this slow, and he tries to attack him repeatedly. Suddenly, Hajin pushes him away, disappears from there, and calls him from another side. He says he will show him just once, so he should open his eyes wide, and rushes toward him, saying this is how footwork should be. He punches his stomach and asks if he gets the technique now, making him fall to a distance. The fourth lord is shocked that he didn't see his movements at all. Hajin says the dynamic between the 9 heavens contraction divine steps, heaven and dark shadow demonic art is pretty good. He was relatively sure but didn't have the chance to check in a real-life situation. The fourth lord asks how he dares to use him to test his martial arts, and warns him not to expect his death to be peaceful. He again attacks him, but Hajin dodges him, saying it's no use and this kind of attack won't work on him. He smirked and said he was still looking down on him, always looking down at everyone, and never had the chance to look up. He uses the most significant form of snake shadow poison palm, and asks him to dodge his next attack. He throws a large attack towards him, and the poison of the poison palm will be absorbed into the injuries he made in his torso earlier, and he is sure that he won't survive this one. He has poured in all the deadly poison in his attack, and says he will now die struggling from the poison. The poison penetrates through his skin and injuries even if he holds his breath, and he never expects that he has been hiding such a monstrous technique. He needs to get out of this as soon as he can, and he uses his sword Kai to get out of this. He looks for the fourth young lord, but he disappears, and he is shocked to see Manhwa there, who is calling him for help. He runs toward her and asks what she is doing there when she is recovering from a severe injury, and she shouldn't be moving around yet. Suddenly, she gets up and attacks Hajin, but he dodges his attack and discovers that the fourth young lord is pretending to be Manhwa. But he is shocked to see Secret Demon Queen there, and she calls him by his real name and says it is time for his head. Suddenly, his hands disappear, and after that, his feet are also gone. He is struggling in the snake shadow poison palm's illusions, while the fourth lord is watching him joyfully and says it's a shame that he is the only audience. He says he will kill him right there like he said he would do to him, and he might come back and be a nuisance if he doesn't make sure to kill him there. He rushes toward him to attack, but Hajin reacts in time and grabs his neck. Shockingly, he asks him how he escaped the illusion because he had completely fallen for it. Hajin asks him if this is the secret martial arts technique he has been hiding all this time, and it's just as cunning and wicked as its wielder. He punches his face and says he can't attain power with this kind of petty trick. He has wholly eradicated his snake shadow poison plam from his body, and this is all thanks to the poison he put in him earlier. He trained his tolerance when he was an assassin, so that he would never fall to poison and quickly escape the fourth young lord's illusion. The fourth young lord is shocked and says he should be on the level of the demonic elders to be able to detoxify his snake shadow poison palm. Hajin comes forward and says he did take a bit longer than he expected, but it's not an accomplishment worth mentioning. However, he has indeed created more trouble for him than he expected, so he will show him what real demonic arts are. He shows him the true openings of the shadow wicked art and uses the underground poison spirit guard gateway technique. There is immense